Hello and welcome to this video. This is Race Rundown and I am Lex, and today we are discussing the basics of F1 and everything you need to know predating the 2025 Formula One season. If you are new here, hi, I'm Lex, and in this series we talk about F1 and we just discuss all of the fun and chaos that comes with F1. Okay, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell button if you please, and turn on all notifications so you know when I upload. I post rundowns 6 hours after every Grand Prix, and I post vlogs every Sunday at 10 a.m. Okay, I love you all. Once again, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the button, and roll the intro. God, that took me way too long to get that intro. Clearly, it's been a while. And also, there's been some setup changes, so I'm in this like weird position on my chair. And okay, let's do the ceremonious Red Bull opening. If you don't know, at the beginning of the episode, I open a Red Bull, and this is our victim today. She was crisp. Okay, like I said, we're talking about the 2025 preseason testing and F1 basics. There's a lot of changes this season when it comes to the grid. Um, if this is like your first video ever watching about F1, then this is just the grid, okay? Okay, so this at the end of the 2024 season, this is how the teams ended. In the Constructors' Championship or the Team Championship, which is both of the drivers' points added up, McLaren came in first with 666 points. Ferrari came in second with 652 points. Red Bull came in third with 589 points. Mercedes came in fourth with 468 points. Aston Martin came in fifth with 92 points. Alpine with 65, Haas with 58, Racing Bulls with 46, and Williams with 17, and Sauber with 4. The Drivers' Championship ended with Max Verstappen winning his fourth championship, and he came in first with 437 points. Lando Norris came in second with 374 points. Charles Leclerc came in third with 356 points. Oscar Piastri came in fourth with 292 points. Carlos Sainz came in sixth with 290. George Russell came in. Did I say Carlos Sainz came in fifth with 290. George Russell came in sixth with 245, and Lewis Hamilton came in seventh with 223 points. Um, Sergio Checo Perez came in with 152 points. Fernando Alonso came in with 70 points. Nico Hulkenberg with Pierre Gasly rounds out the top 10 with 42, and I'll put the rest on the screen. So that was last season was a thriller, I would say. I feel like collectively we all knew Max was gonna win. Like I think after like the fifth Grand Prix, we were all like, because it's like even though Lando kind of posed a threat, it wasn't really a threat. Like don't get me wrong, Lando is my favorite driver, but just like realistically, last season we had 7 different winners. Yeah, we had Max Verstappen, Carlos Sainz, Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, Lewis Hamilton, George Russell. And Lewis Hamilton and George Russell were at the time with Mercedes. Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc were with Ferrari, and Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris were with McLaren, and Max Verstappen was with Red Bull. And I'll put last season's grid on the screen and then put this season's grid on the screen. So Red Bull has a new driver of Liam Lawson. Max Verstappen is still there. Liam Lawson is technically a rookie, but like he raced for Daniel Ricciardo after he was dropped mid-season last year. Um, when Red Bull chose Liam Lawson over the seasoned driver of Yuki Tsunoda, who has been driving at the junior team of Red Bull, Racing Bulls, I think collectively in the F1 community we all said, "What do you mean?" And then there's this picture of Yuki staring at the Red Bull car pulling out, and it's heartbreaking. If I can find it, I'll put it on the screen. It's like literally, I'm just like, but yeah. McLaren is McLaren and Aston Martin are the only teams that nothing changed. So at McLaren, it is still Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. Lando has a contract till the end of 2025, I want to say, and Oscar is the end of 2026, I want to say. And then I don't know the contracts for Aston Martin, but at Aston Martin, it's Lance Stroll, the owner's son. So I would say it's safe to say that he's got I seriously doubt he'll be getting replaced at any time. And Fernando Alonso, who is a two-time world championship in 2005 and 2006. And yeah, Fernando briefly retired for like 3 years and then 2 years, I think, and then came back with Alpine and then went to Aston Martin in 2023. I would say the biggest shock of changes that happened was last year on February 1st, 2024. It was announced that Lewis Hamilton was leaving Mercedes to go to Ferrari. Lewis Hamilton had been with Mercedes for 11 years and he had won 6 championships with them. And yeah, I think collectively we were all just kind of like, what do you mean? But due to him joining um, Ferrari, they suspended or they cut off Carlos Sainz's, I think, 4 year long contract, which would have ended at the end of the 2025 season, I want to say. And so then Carlos Sainz decided to move to Williams, and Williams mid-season dropped Logan Sargent, and I get it in like a brand standpoint, like I get that, but also like as an American, I'm like, how could you do that to my Pookie? Like, how could you do that? Regardless, yeah. So driving at Williams now is Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon. Alex has been driving with Williams since 2021, maybe I want to say, something like that. Um, and yeah, I think Carlos only has a 2 year contract, which is open for change, but like it's like technically a 2 year contract, and I have no idea when Alex's ends. If you want to know more about those kind of contracts, go watch my video on silly season that I uploaded at the end of the 2024 season because I talk about like all the contracts and drama and stuff. Um, Ferrari, like I said, now it still has their golden boy of Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. And I think it's going to be interesting seeing the dynamic between the two of them because Charles is not one to just give the person the win. I mean, like him and Carlos almost crashed each other out so many different times. Like it was genuinely, almost had a heart attack. And yeah, but like it's going to be odd because I feel like most likely Ferrari's gonna prioritize Lewis, but maybe not. I mean it Lewis is a 7-time world champion and we'll see. I mean, I guess we'll never know until the season starts. But I think it's going to be interesting seeing their dynamic and seeing how Ferrari deals with it. And yeah, it'll be something. Okay, at Mercedes, it is George Russell and Kimi Antonelli, who is 17, I think. He's a baby. And him and Ayrton Senna look so fucking similar, it scares me. But Kimmy was pulled up from F3 to F1, basically, and I'm not sure how long his contract is, but he is filling Lewis Hamilton's spot at Mercedes. And I don't really think that that was ever a question. I mean, like, I wanted Sebastian Vettel to come back to F1 in that seat because, like, there was, like, rumors of that, but that never ended up happening. I mean, clearly. I'm literally wearing a Sebastian Vettel sweatshirt right now. He's my favorite driver of all time. But I don't think Sebastian Vettel is going to be coming back to F1. But, or I wanted them to do Frederick Vesti, who competed in F2 for a while and has been the reserve driver for Mercedes for the past 2 years, I want to say. Um, but they went with Kimmy. Uh, at Alpine, they have Pierre Gasly, who joined their team 2 seasons ago. No, 1 season ago? I don't know. Joined their team within the past few years. And they parted ways with Esteban Ocon and they dropped him the race, the race before Abu Dhabi. So literally, just to be petty, they were like, "No, you don't get to close out the season with us." And Esteban Ocon had been with them for several years at that point, and it was just kind of like, "Oh, what do you mean? What do you mean?" But yeah, so they dropped him the race before, and then they decided to pull up their reserve driver, Jack Doohan, who is the son of Mike Doohan, who is a MotoGP champion. I think that's his name. I forget. But yeah, I guess we'll see how this goes. I don't really have opinions on either of them. At Haas, there's Ollie Berman and or Oliver Berman and Esteban Ocon. So Esteban moved from Alpine to Haas, and Ollie, he really amazed everyone last year at Saudi Arabia when Carlos Sainz appendix burst and he had to have a driver fill in. And Ollie ended up securing sixth, I think, and got like 8 points, which is crazy. And like he really impressed everyone with that. And also it's like the Ferrari was doing very well at that race, but still, first F1 race and scores points, that's pretty damn impressive. And then Esteban Ocon, everyone says that he's like a horrible teammate, so we'll see if Ollie has a mental breakdown. Let's hope not. Um, at Sauber, it is Nico Hulkenberg and Gabriel Bordatello. I don't really know much about Gabriel. Nico moved from Haas to there last year, and the funny thing is that the last time that Lewis moved from McLaren to Mercedes, Nico moved from some team to Sauber. And so it was like, oh, that's a cute little parallel. And finally, we have at Racing Bulls, we have Yuki Tsunoda and Isaac Hadjar, who has, I don't know if he was competing in F2 last year, but he has been their reserve driver. It was announced in like, I want to say like end of December that they were dropping Checo, or Sergio Perez, and they were dropping Checo and that he wouldn't be returning for the 2025 season. And frankly, I'm not that big of a fan of Checo. I'm a fan of his mirror selfies, and that's about it. I do find it funny how he's really. I'm trying to pick carefully what I say. I think that Checo is a good driver, don't get me wrong, but when you're next to Max Verstappen, no one looks good. But I think that he did make a lot of mistakes last season, which were in his control, and that just kind of led Red Bull to putting him on the chopping block. And like I said, Daniel Ricciardo and Logan Sargent both were dropped mid-season last year. Danny Rick was dropped after Singapore, and Logan was dropped before that. I forget. Let's see. But oh, right there. That's Daniel and Jules Bianchi. Jules Bianchi is Charles Leclerc's godfather, but he passed away in a crash at Japan in 2014. Um, yeah, I don't think Logan's in frame either. But yeah, Logan and Daniel were both dropped mid-season, and Logan like briefly was like being talked about in Formula E, and then frankly, I don't know this for sure. But according to my For You page on TikTok, Logan is officially out of motorsport, and I'm not sure how it happened. I'm not sure what led to it, but supposedly Logan Sargent is officially done with motorsport. He's out. He's gone. He said, "I'm done with y'all's bullshit," which can't really blame him. And yeah, but also last season we lost Zhou Guanyu, who was a Chinese, or who is, he's not dead. He's a Chinese driver who raced for Sauber last year. He raced at Alfa Romeo slash Sauber. It used to be Alfa Romeo, and he raced for them for 3 years, I want to say 2 years. Um, and then yeah, and then we also Kevin Magnussen or K Mag was driving at Haas and was dropped. Obviously, things were subject to change. Like I said, two drivers were dropped mid-season last year, so who knows how this will go. One driver who I was surprised didn't get picked up was Franco Colapinto, who filled Logan Sargent's seat after. Supposedly, he's in talks with Alpine. I don't know. I think Jack Doohan may need to watch his back. So, Valtteri Bottas, we also lost last season. He was racing for Sauber. It was him and Joe for Sauber last year. And Valtteri Bottas is, I forget how many, but he's a multiple Grand Prix winner with Mercedes and an icon and a half. And he's returning as Mercedes reserve driver, and Zhou Guanyu's returning as Ferrari's reserve driver. And then I'll put it on the screen, the other ones. Um, regular, what? Regulatory what? Okay, changes. It is a two pit stop. It's a mandatory two pit stop for Monaco, and it wants to enhance the competition and like make it more interesting, which like yeah, but like no. Um, but yeah, so the FIA introduced a rule requiring a minimum of at least two pit stops during the Monaco Grand Prix, mandating the use of at least three sets of tires with a minimum of two different compounds. So, like for example, like you could start the race on mediums and then switch to hards and then switch again, switch back to mediums or whatever combo you want to do. But yeah, that'll be interesting to see. Monaco is my favorite Grand Prix of the season, and I more like it because of its history, and it's also just so beautiful, like around the city of Monaco. It's also arguably like one of the most iconic F1 races because it's like it's so like rich and like culture. I don't know, y'all. Okay. The other one is increased running for the rookie drivers. So last year or the like for the past few years, you've at least had to have a racer who hasn't driven in more than two Grand Prix, I believe, race in one of an FP1 or FP2 in a free practice. But now it is mandatory that rookie drivers are this okay, no, when I was taking these notes, I did not. It they're just gonna be on the track more during the free practices. Okay, preseason testing in Bahrain. Preseason testing is basically where the drivers figure out what the fuck is wrong with their car. And frankly, for some of the teams, it was a lot. But day one highlights are Lando Norris leads in the McLaren, and he was followed by Lando had a time of 1:30.430, and he was followed by George Russell, and after George was Max. Lewis made his debut with Ferrari, and he completed over 70 laps and finished fifth in the session. He feels very he seems very happy with Ferrari. There was a power outage which caused the session to stop, and it frankly it was funny. And the session was extended by an hour because the power was out for so long. And finally, Aston Martin, Adrian Newey is at Aston Martin this year, which is the designer of the Red Bull cars for the past several years. And for it being the world champion car, it ended seventh, which this is just testing. We don't know. And it also doesn't have a Max Verstappen behind the wheel. But yeah, I guess we'll see how that goes. Day two, Carlos Sainz, which ended up being the highest time of the entire highest time of the entire weekend, was at the top of the charts with what am I trying to say? Carlos Sainz set the fastest time of the entire weekend in testing of 1:29.348, and this was specifically impressive after the shitty run that Williams have had for several years now. It's like randomly the Williams will be great, and obviously conditions apply, but like sometimes the Williams is amazing, and then other times it's like, oh, you brought a tractor. You brought a Kia Soul to an F1 track. No hate to Kias. It was just the first car I could think of. Lewis Hamilton follows behind Carlos, and after Lewis, it was Charles Leclerc, which I think it's ironic that the new Ferrari driver outbeat the two or the what? The old Ferrari driver beat out the two Ferrari drivers. No. And I've like besides that there wasn't much. I'm pretty sure Liam Lawson spun out, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't put that in my notes. But The funniest part was when Max Verstappen and Lando were doing a press conference and they were joking, being like, "We're not friends anymore. We hate each other," because they had like a slight beef last year after Austria when they crashed each other out, or M Max and Lando crashed into each other. Lando had to retire. Max ended like sixth or something like that. Um, but yeah, they were like joking around, being like, "No, we're not friends anymore," but they really are. I love them as a duo. They're so iconic. For the final day of testing, George Russell set the fastest time with a 129.54 or 545. Williams demonstrated a significant improvement. I'll put on the screen. I saw this really interesting TikTok showing the difference in the front wings. And yeah, and I mean, they're little, but like key takeaways of testing were the top teams, as expected, were Ferrari, Mercedes, or what? Ferrari, what am I trying to say? McLaren, Ferrari, Red Bull, and Mercedes, and they appear to be somewhat near each other. Hopefully, we'll have an interesting season, and it's not just like one driver winning everything, which, if it is, I hope it's Lando, because I'm a Lando girly through and through. But yeah, I think Williams showed a lot of improvement in the midfield compared to normal. Because like last year, they typically ended like not in the points. That's where they typically ended, not in the points. And they were more like, I would say like, well, I mean, Carlos set the fastest time in the entire weekend, but um, I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see how they do when they have a driver like Carlos Sainz. And Alex Albon is an amazing driver as well, but Carlos is he's the pièce de résistance. Like, il est très bien. Yeah, and the season officially starts with the Australian Grand Prix, which starts on the 15th and ends on the 18th. And yeah, it's a later start than normal. I feel like last year it started like directly at like the season started this weekend last year. And so yeah, I think it'll be interesting. It's kind of odd to me that we're not starting in Bahrain. We're like going back to like in the 2000s when they started with Australia first, but for the past 10 or so years it's been Bahrain. But it goes Australia, then China, then Japan, I want to say. I'll just put it on the screen. But yeah, I go over a bunch of technical terms in my F1 basics video from last year. So if you need to know like the basics of F1, go watch that because this is more just like your update on everything that happened in the off season. But yeah, how do we feel? Okay. I don't want Max Verstappen to win this year. And let me explain why. Like I said, Sebastian Vettel is my favorite driver of all time. And Sebastian won 4 world championships with Mercedes. Or what? With Red Bull. And I don't want Max to beat that. He can tie, like he is right now. But let's just keep it there. I A lot of people so firmly believe that Lewis is gonna get his 8th championship with Ferrari, which sure, it's a possibility. I don't know. I feel like I mean, I'm trying to think about like what happened during preseason testing, which Bahrain and Australia are very different tracks, so we'll see. But overall, I think that it's just gonna. I have no idea who will win, and I think that's great. I just hope that it's not Max, and I hope that it's Lando, but I hope that every season. So yeah, any updates besides that? Oh, Mr. Harry Reynolds and I are doing another interview, which has already come out by the time that this comes out. And he and I just discuss, I'm assuming we'll discuss, I don't know, I haven't found it yet. Um, just the F1 season and all of our expectations and what's going on in his life as an F4 driver. And yeah, but yes, that is the end of episode 1 of season 3. I cannot believe I've been doing this for 3 years. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean I've been doing this for 3 years? Like, in some ways, 112%, it feels like I've been doing this for 3 years. And in some ways, it feels like, what do you mean? I just uploaded my first video. What do you mean? I think it'd be funny to do a video reacting to my first ever F1 video because it was so bad. So bad. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that share button if you please, and turn on all notifications so you never miss my upload. Like I said, there should be a vlog coming out. It would have come out like an hour before this did, and Harry and I's interview also probably came out on Friday, so you should go watch. I'm currently filming this a week before it'll be uploaded, so we'll see how things go. But once again, I love you all. Make good decisions. And once again, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the button if you please, and turn on all notifications so you never miss I upload. You can go to my link tree down below to find me on all other platforms, social media. And yeah, roll the outro.